At that point, I seriously thought I was going to freeze to death sooner or later, in a mountain somewhere in Finland with probably no one to find my body until days after. Hey guys, it's yet another finger here on YouTube. So today's video is not really a video, as you can see. It's kind of a story podcast where I share with you the story of the time I thought I was going to die in Finland. But also in general, today I'd really just like to get a bit more personal and chat with you guys about some stuffs in my life and my experiences. And unlike my regular videos, I'm not going to show my face today, so please feel free to play this in the background and do your own thing if you'd like. Now, there is a reason why I'm not able to show my face today, and that's going to be the first thing I'll be sharing. But if you're just desperate to jump right into the story of how I could have died in Finland, please feel free to skip through parts with the timestamps I'm going to put in the description. Okay, so it's actually not part of the plan that I'd be making this podcast today. Originally, my plan was to make a reaction video to the Asian boss street interviews of Taiwanese people this week, which I'm probably going to make next week instead. Because the thing is, ever since my live stream, which was about 3 weeks ago, I've been staying up late almost every day because I was super busy at the end of June. I had my Japanese N2 level exam to prepare for, I was working really hard to finish this artwork that I'm putting on screen right now, which was taking me forever to complete, and I already post videos in the midnight since I figure that's the time most of my audiences will be awake and active according to the analytics, so I have been quite used to staying up late so far this year. And I think it's because of that, starting a few days ago, I've been having headaches and extreme fatigue in my eyes. The headache itself was pretty mild, but what actually worried me was that it felt like it was somehow connected to my left eye, and when I sort of pulled up my eyelid, I could see unusual blood vessels on the top of my left eyeball. The first day it happened, it was really red, and the headache also increased whenever I did that. So usually when I record a video, I put on contact lenses. Normally I have to wear glasses. But under this circumstance, I don't think I want to put on contact lenses for at least a while, especially because I was actually born with some eyes problems. I did get cured, but it also left my eyes very vulnerable, like more vulnerable than regular people. And the doctor specifically told me my eyes are not suitable for contact lenses, which is why I'm usually not able to wear them over 3 days a week and 6 to 8 hours at a time. So at the beginning of this week, I was waiting to see if the symptom would fade out after a good night's sleep. And even though it has been getting a lot better, like today I'm not feeling headache anymore, but it's been going on longer than I expected, and the blood vessels are not as severe, but also they're not completely gone. So I don't want to take the risk because I really worry that contact lenses at this point are going to not only get in the way of the self-healing process, but it could even worsen the condition drastically. Like, it also happened before where I had headaches when I wore contact lenses for too long, and that's basically why I decided not to film a reaction video this week as planned. Now, you might be thinking why I cannot just film a video with my glasses on, and the thing is that for some reason it makes me look really weird on camera when I'm wearing glasses. The interesting thing is that it's fine with my phone camera because I did one Instagram live stream with my glasses on. Some of you guys might remember, and it looked fine, but the camera I'm using for recording is not really the best at capturing my face with glasses, I guess. And with these type of reaction videos where I talk about issues seriously, I do want to try and look my best. So initially, I thought about just taking a rest this week and not posting anything. But then again, I did make a promise to myself that at least for this year, I will push myself to put out content weekly every Saturday. And I really want to try my best to stick to that, but of course, I also don't want to put out random content just for the sake of putting out the content. So then I started thinking about what type of content will allow me to not show my face and you guys might still be able to enjoy it. And the solution I came up with is podcast, where I tell this story I've always wanted to share with you guys just because of how ridiculous it sounds. So here we are. I actually get this idea from a Japanese gaming YouTuber I'm following, and once he was also not able to film a regular video because he was having a hoarse voice, so he did this. I think in Japan they call it a radio show when you're not showing your face, just talking rather lightheartedly to your audience. But I suppose in Western definition, this is more like a podcast. Hopefully I'm not misunderstanding the definition. So I was like, yeah, that could be interesting. And I've been wanting to share with you guys this story and do a story time video on this channel for a while now. So I guess today is the day. Here's the story of how I could have died in Finland. So the whole thing actually could have been avoided if I wasn't being so stupid. I'm just going to say it now that this was completely an incident caused purely by stupidity. So anyway, here's the story. Back then, I was an exchange student in Sweden, and our school provided a lot of school trips to some nearby countries that were very cheap. So I joined this one with my friends where our first stop was Helsinki, Finland, and from there we were supposed to take a ferry to Russia. Now the first stupid thing I did here, there's going to be a lot more later, was that I did not bring my resident permit with me on this trip. And it's not even like I just forgot to bring it, I actually completely forgot about the existence of this thing. The day I received it from the immigrant office, I just put it on a bookshelf and forgot that I even had that in the first place. Oh my gosh, I know. So of course, the resident permit is kind of like the ID card that proves the legitimacy of my stay in Sweden and also allows me to travel all over the Schengen area even though they almost never check when you cross the border. Kind of a reason why I completely forgot about it. So here comes the problem. Finland is a part of the Schengen area, but Russia isn't. Meaning that before we boarded onto the ferry, we needed to cross the Finnish border and show the custom our passport and our resident permits. I was about to be in great trouble because I didn't have the resident permit to prove that I was staying in Sweden and Schengen area legally. Fortunately, I am from Taiwan. What do I mean by this? Well, you see, with a Taiwanese passport, you're allowed to travel to and stay inside the Schengen area without visa or any document for 90 days. And I was actually super lucky because the custom counted the days I was in Schengen area and it was 87 days. 87 days! 3 more days and I would be forced on my next plane back to Taiwan and I'd probably receive a punishment or something, I suppose, for not being able to provide legitimate documents for staying over 90 days. As a result, I was seriously scolded by the person at the custom about the importance of bringing my resident permit with me 24/7, which, looking back, he seemed like a really nice person. He looked super scary and furious, but he was being fair the entire time. Anyway, now I need to stay in Finland alone until the group comes back from Russia. So here comes the question, what do I do? Do I A. Stay in the hostel in Helsinki until the group comes back from Russia as instructed by the tour guide? Or B. Go back to Sweden on my own ASAP to get my resident permit before the 90 days free visa period is over to make sure I'll be safe? Or C. Travel to another city in Finland completely on my own without internet connection nor phone services because I was outside Sweden, without much euros because in Sweden we used krona, and without any experience traveling on my own. If you chose C, you are correct. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how stupid I was. Like, literally, the night I got back to the hostel, I was calling my friends in Taiwan saying how scared I was from the experience. And immediately, the next moment, I came up with this genius plan of traveling alone under this circumstance. Seriously, what was I thinking? Anyway, so I decided to go to the city called Turku, sorry for the pronunciation, because I saw on the internet that there's a moving theme park there, and even though it only opened in summer and during the time it was winter, I still wanted to visit the city. So the night I booked the train tickets and a hostel there, and the next morning I hopped on the train and began my first time ever journey alone. The first day I arrived at Turku, everything was fine. I managed to find the hostel without internet. There was a small hill, so I walked around and saw a really beautiful sunset, and I forgot what I ate for dinner, but I remember it being quite enjoyable as well. The next day, I decided to visit the castle, and according to the front desk of the hostel, you could either take a bus there or you could also walk there, so it's only about 30 minutes walk if I remember it correctly, and the weather was great, so I decided to walk there. I had a nice walk. The scenery was extraordinary. I'm going to show you a picture I took during that walk. It was great. However, after almost 2 hours of walk, it doesn't seem like I'm getting anywhere near the castle. I was walking super slow for the scenery, but still I knew it was not supposed to be this far. So I asked someone for direction, and apparently I was walking the opposite direction. I was actually walking further and further away from the castle for 2 hours straight, which was not that surprising considering that I didn't have internet access to my phone. But this is no big deal, right? I knew where I was. Except, according to the person, the castle closed at 6 p.m. and it was like 3 p.m. already, so there was no time for me to walk back, and I decided to take the bus. So I got to the bus station and there were maps that showed bus routes of different lines. I found one that looked like it went the direction towards the castle and got on. On the bus, I was truly paying attention to where the bus was going because I actually didn't know where the stops were. Again, definitely not the brightest choice. But anyway, after a few minutes, I was able to see the castle and was getting nearer and nearer. Until, out of nowhere, the bus took a turn and headed to a different direction. So I immediately got off at the next stop and looked at the map again. And I thought if I just hop on the bus with the same line number going the opposite direction, I would be able to ride back to the last stop that I passed by, and then that would be close enough to the castle. Another thing worth mentioning is that I remember very specifically that at the time it costed 3 euros to take the bus in Finland. And I was running out of coins, so that would be my last chance to take the bus. But still, I hopped on because I was confident nothing was going to go wrong. Except it did. The disaster started when the bus didn't stop near the castle as I expected, but went all the way into a mountain, and started going further and further into the mountain. Of course, I immediately pressed the button for getting off the next stop, but the bus showed no sign of stopping for the next 10 minutes or so. After it finally stopped and I got off, I immediately checked the bus stop across the road to see if it perhaps provided a returning ride. I was disappointed. That bus seemed to be a one-way ride through that area in the mountain, and no bus would take me back to where I was, or at least that was my understanding of the map. But that was not the moment I started to panic, because I thought if I just try to chase back the road where the bus came from, I should be able to walk back to a place I recognize. And there was only one road after all, so I started to walk and walk and walk and walk. Until an hour later, I was completely lost in the mountain for some reason. Like, there was just one road, all the way, and I was simply following that road, but I was suddenly in a place I had no memories of passing by in the bus. I was in this construction area without anyone, without any buildings or houses around. In fact, the whole time I was walking in the mountain, I hadn't seen one single person. The sun was setting and it was late November in Finland, so you could imagine the temperature was also dropping. Even during the day, it would be -5 to 10 degrees, and at night it would drop even further, and sometimes it snows. And for some of you guys, it might sound like nothing, but as a person from a tropical weather, there was no way I would be able to get through the night out on my own if I was not able to get out of the mountain. And that was when I finally started to panic and regretted all of my decisions, because at that point, I seriously thought I was going to freeze to death sooner or later. In a mountain somewhere in Finland with probably no one to find my body until days after. Then out of panic, I started to run, eager to get out of the mountain fast. I ran for about 30 minutes and finally I saw a building. It was a supermarket, and fortunate enough, it was open. I immediately got in and asked the staff there for direction to the city center, which was where my hostel was. And she told me something really strange, that it was across the bridge. And it was like one of those really huge bridge where you couldn't walk on, but it was only for cars. And the weird thing was, the bus never crossed any bridge. I'm pretty sure of it. But anyway, the bigger problem was, how was I supposed to get across the bridge? I had no idea which way to go. And then what happened next was probably one of the luckiest moments I've ever had in my life. An old lady suddenly stopped me at the car park, saying that she overheard our conversation in a supermarket and offered to drive me back to the city center. She knew that I would not be able to get back on my own. And so I took the ride, and that's how I didn't die and am currently still here to tell you the story. During the car ride, we chatted a little bit. The lady was extremely nice. She even said she thought I was brave for traveling alone, because she never had the courage. But looking back to this incident, I was definitely not being brave, but rather stupid. So please don't be like me. If you plan on traveling alone for the first time, please definitely be fully prepared and make sure it'll be safe. So basically, just don't be like me. Like, even now thinking back, I was literally so lucky the lady was a genuinely nice person, because what if it was human traffickers who found me? It's definitely scary to think about. Final thing I want to mention is that during this trip, I was being stupid the entire time, but literally every Finnish person I met along the way were extremely nice to me and helped me so much. So even though I know they won't see this, I genuinely want to express my deepest gratitude towards these people. So anyway, that was the full story. I'm sorry for not being able to post a regular video about Taiwan today, but still, I hope you enjoyed it, so please leave a like if you did, and if you're new here, please subscribe. I normally post Taiwan-related content, occasionally some anime-related content as well, and if you guys seem to enjoy this podcast, I will sure make more in the future because I have a lot more abroad stories to share. Thank you so much for listening to me today, and I will see you in the next video.